way too well used. But this has a lot of potential, but I think we have to fully understand, a lot of what users have been doing in the past and our ability to capture and handle that data.
I think we have time for about one more comment. Go ahead, Patrick.
I just wanted to respond to the comment from the gentleman in the back, because I do think that you raise a good point. And I started out by saying the issue of time shouldn't be metadata, and I don't. Some of the places some of the conferences I go to, when you use the word metadata, people instantly roll their eyes in the back of their head. But for those issues, the transformation models you use, referencing the process you use, recording what was done to the data is one way to address that. And GIS and software in general really needs to improve on how we handle metadata and tracking data about the data that is beyond measurement, and that's definitely an issue. When you think about data migration from old tapes of data or other ways that data were gathered, or even some of those original records that you were talking about in your talk, can you just envision the books of the handwritten points of you, and the quality of that data it's just an issue that people still need to consider in GIS and in Geodesy, and I think software is a good vehicle for easing that burden, but each surveyor, each GIS person has to take a moment to reference what they're doing properly, so that someone else, when they get to that data, knows fairly easily and can follow what was going on. And that's definitely a hard issue to tackle, I think.
Sir,
you had a little bit of a comment about maybe two different things. Property, indicating maybe a property surveyor doesn't necessarily care so much about what's happening at geodesy level, but as a practicing surveyor, I'm so happy today that we have this forum that we're talking about time and velocities, because this fellow over here years ago told me about this velocity issue, and I always reported coordinates on my survey plats, and he complicated it for me. So then I had to figure out, since we're reporting coordinates to our clients associated with boundaries, those coordinates are dynamic. As surveyors, we have to be able to reestablish boundaries in the future. So we need to educate our fellow surveyors, those coordinates are changing, and not necessarily the monument or something or other. That's always there, but the coordinates changing. So when I sit in on the parcel editor and I see that coordinates are put to points around all these parcels, and we can put in boundaries that are very, very accurate today, but the coordinates are going to move, I think the ArcGeodesy has to be talking to the parcel editor people on my behalf for the future. Thank you.
Good point. Thanks. I think, does everybody have 2:45? Or do we have another minute? We have another minute. Okay. Is there any more comment or question? No, one more. Last one.
My own? Yeah. I think the concept is excellent idea, and I also see a problem somewhere. We know that with the European gravity satellite coming up, means that at various points in time we're going to have various proper definition of an ellipsoid, and to the point where there would be a time where you don't need the survey control points that we use anymore. Now, when it comes to data visualization, in view of the fact that the time component doesn't make the data linear, does that mean that, especially with visualization, where we probably have different time slices, we're going to have velocity vector with every piece of data that we have, and for the integrity, what would be the cutoff point? For example, whether you are doing survey controls or survey, parcel survey, or you're doing deformation. How many of those parameters are we going to have in our analysis or on our lease works? Does that make sense to you?
It makes sense. It's a question I cannot answer right now because this whole thing is in development. We have to figure these things out. But it's a point that we've recorded, we've taken, so that we can consider it and deal with how that might work. As you know, this doesn't exist, but it sounds like it ought to, so we'll press on. I'd like to thank the panelists, each and every one. Thank you very much for taking the time to think about this and come up and speak. Thank you very much for participating. Thanks.